first section at the top, I would like you to fill in a blank for me in the very top line up there. This next section is called All Eyes Are on the Leader. Again, this is not about hospitality training from here forward for the next 2 hours. This is simply about what can we in this room do to tweak just a little bit some of the things that we do to change our employees' perception about us. The very first line on the top is, you are the conductor. Please fill in the words, conductor. Employees will follow your tempo, whether you like it or not. And I'll repeat the last 2 words, or not, because that will happen. I would just like you to envision that when you come into your restaurant, the employees begin looking at you the minute you hit the door. They're watching you because they're looking for a tempo. If you take your baton and you move this slow, they will also move that slow. You speed it up, they will speed up. They are watching your every move, whether you want them to or not. And that is the key. They'll also pick up the things that you don't want them to pick up. The first time I found out about how much power I had in this particular area, I used to work in retail for about 12 years, retail management, and I managed a clothing store up in the Seattle area. It was during the jean boom in the 70s when Britannia jeans, and just any jean you put on a table would fly out the door. We had a theory in retail, stack them high and watch them fly. So at the mall that I worked in, it was about 15 minutes before opening, we had about 10 cases of jeans to get stacked up on these tables. And I had 2 stock people that I asked to go do it. Well, I watched them as they were putting the jeans out, and they were putting them out at about this pace, and they were talking to each other, which is fine, but I knew at the pace they were going, they were never going to get it out on time. So I stepped out, came up to the front of the store, and I said, let me give you a hand. Cracked open a box, and I kept talking right with them, but I was working at about twice the pace they were. I never said a word. But immediately, they began working at the exact same pace as me. It was the very first time, this is almost 25 years ago, that I realized the power that I had to set the tempo for the people around me with the unspoken word, simply by doing it. About 15 years ago, when I started one of my businesses up 15 years ago, a different company, I had about 10 employees. And I used to get my postage stamps at the post office like most of us and lick them and put them on the bills that I would send out. So that's how I truly handled most of my mail. Well, I went over to a friend of mine who he owned a business that was much larger than mine, and I was sitting there talking to him, but I noticed his secretary was over there, and she had this machine in front of her. It was sweetness. You put a piece of mail in there, you go ka-ching, you put a ka-ching stamp on it, and it was sweet. I said, well, if you're going to have a professional business, Brad, you've got to have one of these machines. So I went to Pitney Bowes, and I leased myself a ka-ching machine. Brought it back to my office. I put my mail in there. Ka-ching! It was beautiful. And I put it inside my mail slot. Working fabulous. I started to notice, however, that it was working so good, and I was having a tough time at home, so I started bringing my mail and my bills from home and putting them in my ka-ching machine and putting my mail in the mail slot to go out. I noticed a few weeks later, I started noticing a few of my employees' mail from home showing up with my ka-ching thing on it inside the box. Not a big deal. It's only a few pieces of mail. But I got to tell you, after about 4 months, it was near Christmas, and I'm telling you, ka-ching, 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 Christmas cards like this thick inside my thing. I brought my employees out. I sat them down. I said, what are you thinking? And they said, you do it. I said, but I own the place. They said, we don't care. So where'd that come from? You obviously do not understand the great food chain. I am the owner. I get privileges that you do not. And you look at me kind of like, no. It happened even a year after that. My wife was pregnant. It was probably 8 weeks before she's due. I'm calling home probably 6 or 8 times a day because I want to make sure nothing fell out that I'm unaware of. So I'm calling a lot. I admit to it. But all of a sudden, after about a week or two, I noticed I all of a sudden couldn't get a line out myself. So I started walking down the hall, looking in the offices. The employees all got their feet on the desk, talking to family and friends. I brought them back out again. I sat them down. And I said, what are you doing? And they said, you do it. And I said, but my wife's pregnant. They said, we had nothing to do with that. And that was really good news. But it just reinforced to me. I still, to this day, Do not, you ought to see the Pitney Bowes machine I got now, man. 350 horsepower. It is a big, mean machine. But I do not bring my personal mail in and run it through the machine because I know I can't stop my employees from doing it. They'll do it. And on personal phone calls, I still do not make personal phone calls. I've got 35 full-time employees. I do not make personal phone calls. And if I do have to sneak one in, I close my door. I'm that cautious about it. Setting the example. I got it reinforced to me again probably about 6 months ago. I had some shoes. I bought them at Nordstrom's. They were kind of like wearing on me a little bit. They were brand new. So I got into my office, kicked my shoes off under my desk. I was relaxed. I needed some water in my water bottle because I drink a lot of water. Walked all the way down the hallway, past the cubicles, past the office, went to the kitchen, filled the water up, came back, sat at my desk. Wasn't even 15 minutes. My vice president and general manager walks in the door and looks under my desk like that and says, "I knew it." I said, "What?" She goes, "Come here." Took me out in the hallway and pointed down the hallway. Half a dozen people had their shoes off already, walking around the office. You can't win. I'm just telling you that if you want these employees to smile when they are at work, you better be smiling too. If you expect them to use the customer's name when they know the customer, you better start using their name a lot. Exaggerate. Everything that you want them to do, make sure they see it tenfold from you as well. The next word I'd like you to fill in, the next blank down, is the word authenticity. Authenticity. If you don't know how to spell it, just draw it. The employees won't believe the message if they don't believe the messenger. This is very simple. If you are going to waste your employees' time by sitting down and trying to coach them on these issues, you're going to go back, see tomorrow, you're going to get all fired up about some of this stuff, you're going to want to coach them. If you're going to sit them down in a meeting and you're going to talk to them, do not waste their time by looking at them and going, "Yeah, that Brad guy, he says we got to get better at the service thing, so let's get all over that." Make sure whenever you sit the employees down and you're coaching them that they hear that passion in your voice, that they see it in your eyes. Otherwise, they will not subscribe to it. And walking the walk and talking the talk. It's what I just talked about. The next one down to fill in is the word focus. Focus. And there's no K in that for those who are spelling impaired. See, visionary leaders, they broadcast a few key messages and they focus the employees' energy. The key message, you can decide what you want it to be. Now, the key message should be is that we are going to learn to exceed everybody's expectations. When they walk through that door, we're going to find a way to wow them. Or it can be, we're going to start treating people the way we personally would like to be treated. I don't care what your message is, as long as they have a very clear message about the culture of your restaurant. On top of that, if you're going to coach them into some new behavior changes, let's say you've got 5 things that you want them to do with every single customer. You've got these things picked out and you say these are non-negotiable, we're going to do them. If you try to give them all 5 in one day and say, "Here, do these, start them now," it's just like going on a weight loss program. You try to lose 5 pounds in 1 week, you're going to have 10 pounds come back the next week. It just doesn't work as sweet as that. I will ask you that if you're going to coach people, is take one item at a time and have them focus on that one item for about 2 weeks. Don't get them all confused with everything else. 2 weeks, let's focus on that and get it really ingrained in their system 100% of the time. Then after that, say we're going to continue to do this, but we're going to add a new thing. And you work on that for the next 2 weeks. Basically, it might take you 10 weeks. And that might seem like too long. Some of you are saying, that's way too long. But you know what? It sticks. That's what it takes to create a culture, not just a quick program that might go away. The next line down I'd like you to fill in is the word positive attitude. Positive attitude. It's the kind of attitude that says, "Hey, I'm going after Moby Dick and I'm going to take tartar sauce." That is a positive attitude. The employees need to look at you to know that this stuff can happen. When you set up non-negotiable standards for them, they need to see in your eyes that this is not rocket science. This is about our attitudes. This is not aptitude. This does not require a college education. This can be done. The next line down is the word synergy, and that is S-Y-N-E-R-G. S-Y-N-E-R-G. Promoting a culture where there was power and success in teamwork. If you have ever seen geese flying, it is an amazing sight. When you see geese flying through the air like that, you probably looked up and thought they flew that way because, hey, that looks bitchin'. No, it has nothing to do with it at all. They actually fly that way because they draft off of each other. Now, for those of you who have ever watched NASCAR, and you see how they follow each other around the track and you can't figure out why they're not passing each other more? That's what it's all about. When geese fly in this formation, they fly 74% more efficient. If one of the geese tries to sneak out of that and tries to pass everybody in hot dog, they can't do it. They'll get blown back. They tend to come right back into it. So as you watch geese fly, they'll drift a little bit as you watch them go, but they know where the resistance is least, and their wings will just be like very, very easy flight. If you ever see one of these geese that gets tired or gets injured, watch if it goes to the ground. It will not go alone. One will take off, but two more will follow it. They go down in threes because they know that if that one goose gets away from the rest of the flock, it won't be able to catch up. Great teamwork. I saw an amazing sight, too. This was last year. I've known this for years, but I saw a great example of it when I was at my sister's house on Lake Washington, and this flock was flying by. There was probably about 10 of them in it, and I saw two coming from behind trying to catch up. Now, the flock itself, their wings were just like this, just a beautiful sight. The two that were back here trying to catch up, they were just cranking. They were moving. But when they got up, right up into the back side of the flock, right about to here, the geese opened up, the two separated on both sides, and sucked the other two right in, and I could see their wings go immediately right at the same pace as everybody else. And it was the first time that I was actually able to see the amount of efficiency with which they fly. And the reason I bring this up is because you're a team. When you're in your environment, in your restaurant, you need to function as a team. If anybody in your organization decides they're going to be a hot dog or they're not going to participate in this culture, they need to feel resistance to that. They need to be brought back in so everybody can fly together. Leadership is a verb and not a noun. Leadership requires action. I'd like you to fill the word action. Because the speed of the pack will truly be determined by the speed of the leader. That is you in this room. If your people are going to change their behavior, it will happen because you allow it to happen, or you'll be involved in the process. And it's important to be a leader and not consider yourself a boss. Now, I don't know about you, but I have always hated the word boss. Anytime I got introduced as the boss, I felt like they were saying, he bosses me around all the time. He's a boss. I didn't like it. When my employees, during holiday events, they'd bring their significant other over to me and introduce me. They'd say, this is the boss. And it's like taking a knife in my heart. I just didn't like it. Now, I allow my employees to introduce me as the president, as the founder, as the owner, as their co-worker. I tried being introduced as their outstanding leader. No, they didn't go for it. No, not even close. The boss inspires fear, and a leader inspires enthusiasm. Please fill in the words enthusiasm. That is our job. The boss says I, and the leader says we. The boss says go, and the leader says let's go. The boss says it's the company, and the leader says it's our company. Rethinking your role as a manager. Have you moved from being a manager to a leader and from a trainer to a coach? I would like you to put a star in the left-hand column next to this section. If you get anything, please get this, because this is a very important section that will separate you from the rest of the kingdom in terms of leadership. See, outstanding leaders don't ask, did my staff do what it was supposed to do today? An outstanding leader asks, did I do what I was supposed to do today to make sure that my staff did what it was supposed to do? Let me explain that. If there is failure in your restaurant, if an employee fails for any reason, how many of us today go up to the employee and start looking at that person as a problem and start attacking that person to try to find out why they did that wrong thing? The change of your culture should be that when you see failure, you should be able to walk away from it. And you should be able to ask yourself some questions. Your questions might be something as simplistic as, did I possibly not give that employee all the proper tools that they needed to perform that job? Did I not maybe give them all the proper training that they needed to get that job done? Maybe the day I gave it to them, I gave them most of it, probably 90% of it, but I was in a hurry that day. So maybe the 10% that I did not give them created this failure. Can I take any responsibility for that? Is there a possibility that I did not give them all the proper time that they needed? It might have been a task that might have taken 2-3 hours, and I told them they needed to have it done in an hour. Try to push them a little bit. So first of all, as great leaders, outstanding leaders, we need to look at ourselves first and see if we can take any responsibility for that failure. And if we can, we need to apologize to that person and let them know that, John, I am so sorry. You know, I gave you all the tools you needed, but, you know, when I walked out the door that day, I failed to give you a few bits of information more that might have made the difference between your success and failure. Therefore, I failed you, and I'm sorry for that. Watch the look in their eyes, though, about you being a new leader. They'll look at you with some brand new vision. Now, the next thing we do is, let's say we couldn't find anything that we can't accept any responsibility for. We're certain they had everything. Do we go after the employee yet? Of course not. We open up dialogue with the employee. We ask the employee the same questions. John, did I possibly not give you all the tools you need? Was there anything that you needed that you did not have? And if John says, no, I had everything, did I not properly give you all the training that you needed? John might say, no, you gave me everything. Did I not properly give you all the time that you needed? Did you not have enough time? If he says, no, I had all the time. Then the employee automatically starts taking accountability for their actions, and it's not you pointing fingers at them. They know that there's fault to be had. The next line down is serve employees. See, a leader's role is to support employees and remove barriers. I'd like you to fill in the blanks. Remove barriers. Our job is to ask employees questions and ask them, you did not succeed today. Did anybody, myself, a coworker, or the company, put anything in your way to keep you from reaching your goal? Maybe we're going to learn something from that process. Fostering trust and freedom. Create an environment that eliminates fear. Please fill in the blank, fear. Keeps promises and fosters freedom to question and contribute. If you read that sentence or paragraph towards the bottom, it says, if you lead through fear, you will have little to respect. But if you lead through respect, you will have little to fear. Now, the next bullet point down is coach and share time. Allocate time and resources to coach employees to take on more responsibility and authority. Keep your employees enlightened. Please fill in the words, enlightened and educated. That's a matter of simply not giving them the mushroom treatment. For those of you who do not know what the mushroom treatment is, that's keeping your employees in the dark and feeding them BS. That is not the way to lead people. Let's go to the next section, which is credible leaders. Now, nationally, across the board, in all industries, what do employees perceive as a credible leader? Please fill in the blanks. A credible leader is they do what they say they will do. They keep their promises and follow through on their commitments. The next bullet point is their actions. Their actions are consistent with the wishes, goals of the company. The next bullet point is they believe in the inherent self-worth of others. And they learn how to discover and communicate this to the people that they lead. The next bullet point is they are capable of making a difference in the lives of others. You are capable of improving the lives of the people around you. The next bullet point I would like you to put a star next to and fill in the blank with they admit their mistakes. They realize that attempting to hide mistakes is much more damaging and erodes credibility. By the way, how many of you have children of any age? Doesn't make a difference. How many have children in a room? Okay, great. You might understand this when you have a child out playing with a bunch of other kids. Child does something wrong. You don't realize it's your child, but something goes wrong, something gets broken, your child shows up, has this guilty look on their face, so you send them to their room. Go have timeout! Timeout's great. Now, you found out a half hour later when the neighbor lady comes over that it really wasn't your child that created the problem, that it was another child. And you've got this decision to make. You can be the parent that says, oh, I'm not going to apologize to my kid, or you can be this outstanding parent that brings your child out and says, son, I am so sorry. I owe you a huge apology. I made a big mistake. I did not trust you. I did not believe you, and that was my mistake. I am so sorry for that. But watch the child's eyes again. Look into the child's eyes and look at the new respect they've got for their adult parent. And how good you feel. I don't know about you, but I feel good when I get the chance to apologize. I feel so good. I scream at my son daily just so I can, feel good. He's used to it. An apology, some of you may consider an apology to an employee. You might think, I would never do that. That's a sign of weakness. Trust me, it'll be one of the bigger strengths you ever have to be able to apologize to an employee if you can take some responsibility. The next bullet point down is they arouse optimistic feelings and enable people to think positively about the potential for success. This is creating an environment that does not allow the words, I can't. This is also very much like parenting. Since my son was able to speak, I would never allow him to use the words, I can't. He would come home and say, Father, I can't do my homework. I'd say, is it challenging? Oh, yes. Is it difficult? Oh, yes. Can it be done? Well, maybe. I never let him say it. Of course, now he's taking full advantage of me, though. He comes home now at the age of 14 and says, Father, I'm finding myself exceedingly challenged by my homework. He still does it. He's learned how to play that though. The next bullet point down, the last bullet point here, is they create a climate for learning characterized by trust and openness. The next section is comparing reactive leadership versus proactive leadership. If you are like most people, you probably have very little time in your day. You find yourself challenged because you go to work, you get 8 hours in, you finish, and you go, man, I didn't get anything done that I wanted to get done today. I had an agenda. It just went in the toilet. I was so busy dealing with customer problems or operational things or with employees, I just didn't get anything done today. Well, that's probably most of your life if you stop and analyze it. Being proactive, and you can fill in the top blank, by the way, the next blank down, is that a test of proactive leadership is the ability to recognize a problem before it becomes an emergency. Now, if you want to free up your life, if you want to give yourself more time in a day, this requires proactive thinking and changing your behavior from where you are today. An example might be, you've got some things, every single day you deal with them. They just kind of eat away at your day. They're things that are waste. They're not good uses of your time. They waste your time, and you know it. What I'd like you to consider is sitting down and making a list of these things that consume your day. I would like you in another column to put down about how much time these things consume on the average each day. I mean, some days it doesn't take any time. Some days 30 minutes. So on the average, maybe 15 minutes. It may look very much like this. So what you do is you create a list. You've got, let's say for example, we have 8 things that we can think of that consume our time. We put all 8 of them down there. In the time wasted per day, we put approximately how many minutes each day I deal with these things. And if I could get rid of them, man, what a beautiful thing. I'd have a lot more time. Your goal as a proactive leader is to simply take your time. During week number 1, use an entire week and just commit to yourself that you are going to get rid of one thing per week. Take thing number 1. It wastes 15 minutes. I think it's going to take about 3 hours for me to sit down at a table and create a new procedure or a new policy to make sure that that thing never comes back and haunts me again. Invest 3 hours during that week, boom, it's gone. The next week, you've gained 15 minutes of your life back. Thing number 2, eats 10 minutes of my day away. It's going to take me about an hour to sit down one morning and have a meeting and coach my employees so that they understand how to resolve this issue so it never happens again. 2 weeks down the line. When you get down to the 8th week, yeah, it took you 2 months. But after 8 weeks, you've now gained 120 minutes, 2 hours per day that you never had before, that you now have for the rest of your life, hopefully, and that's it. It took you 25 hours to do it. It was not painful. It happened over time. The problem is most of us don't respond this way. The majority of us say, oh, it'll be better tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow will be a better day. Oh, next week, things are going to lighten up for me. And we've been saying this stuff for years. Don't let it happen. This is how you can get rid of those things.